don't eat from that tree. One thing. And then the sneaky serpent, Satan, comes in, blending into his environment, and kind of subtly tricks Eve. You know what? You can eat that apple. God doesn't know what he's talking about. You'll just be as smart as him if you eat it. And he's like, no, God said if we eat it or we touch it, it would be a bad thing. And he's like, no, you can't. So Eve and Adam both do the one thing that God told them not to. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking, here's God in his infinite love. He creates man and woman, gives them everything, gives them one thing not to do, and they do it. I think he gets parental pain. There's this fall of mankind. I think he gets parental pain and how much that hurts to raise and to love our children and to have them exercise their power of choice and to step outside of God's boundaries and standards for them. You see, unlike us though, when things like that happen to us, we get sidetracked, we get derailed, our thinking gets hijacked, we get dazed, we get confused when situations like that happen. God doesn't. He doesn't get hijacked, he doesn't get dazed, he doesn't get confused, he doesn't get sidetracked. God does not in situations like this. So this morning what I want to talk about is if we're in this place where your kids have really, really messed up, and I'm not talking about just the daily mess-ups that we all do, but something that's altered the course of their life, the way their life looks. Why don't we look to God to see how to handle the situation? There are 3 action steps that we can take. And the first action step that you can take if you find yourself in this place is to pray dangerously. Before I go into the dangerous part, first let me talk about the prayer part. There is a big difference between praying and thinking. One involves talking to God and the other doesn't. Maybe some of you have heard this? Oh gosh, I'll pray about that prayer. Oh, I'll pray about that prayer. Do you ever after somebody tells you that and wonder, are you really praying about it or are you thinking about it? Because I can think about doing my laundry and cleaning my van. It's a different thing to be praying about something. One is active and one is not. You see, I love this. Jesus, when he describes prayer, and this is one of my favorites, it says, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone, then he kind of clarifies it. For everyone who asks receives. He who seeks finds, and to him who knocks, the door will be open. You know what Jesus is telling us there? Prayer is a verb, it's an action. We're supposed to be doing something. I've been in situations where I've seen people like, oh, you know, we've done everything we can, our kid's so messed up, I guess I'm just going to give it to God. Just going to give it to God. Prayer should not be a last resort. It should be your first recourse. Not a last resort. Not the Hail Mary or the flag of surrender at the end of the game. Prayer should be the first thing that we do, and that's giving it to God. Dangerously. And we can pray in all different ways. But when I'm talking about praying dangerously, what I mean is, listen to this prayer. God, do whatever it takes to get my kid to come home, to come back into your ways, to come back into mine. God, do whatever it takes in my own life, in my own heart, that I can give my kid the best chance at coming home. You see, the dangerous thing about praying that prayer is, what does it take? Could it take being arrested? Could it take hitting rock bottom or being in a rehab? I have a niece, and she's fine with me sharing this, but a few years ago she got busted for meth. And she had to go spend some time in jail. And if you talk to our niece today, she will tell you the best thing that ever happened to her was getting put in jail. The best thing that ever happened to her, because once she got in jail, she found God, and she also realized that she wasn't living the way that she should be. That's a dangerous prayer. God doing whatever it takes. The second thing that we can do is to think clearly. Think clearly. Paul tells us in Philippians 2, we need to be taking care of our thought life and where we're at. And when you're in a situation where your kids have made a really bad choice and they've really messed up, one of the first things to go is going to be your thinking. As I said, we get sidetracked, we get hijacked, we get derailed. And the one thing, maybe you've heard this, parents, or you see kids, this happens to us, like, oh, they're such good kids. They're such a good girl. Oh, he was such a good boy. Kind of pittering and pattering around the fact that they really messed up bad. So it's like, let's acknowledge the elephant in the room right from the get-go. If you find yourself in this situation, acknowledge what it is. And the person who makes the choice to step outside of God's boundaries, or your boundaries as a parent, these are their characteristics. They are self-centered, they seek immediate gratification, and they think they have all the answers. Like, whoa, that's me, that's like rough. You know how I know those things? It's because I've been that person before, and it was all about me. It was all about making me happy as fast as I could, and I didn't need to listen to anybody else tell me how to take care of anything. I knew it all. I knew everything. The other thing that happens, this is basically Satan's playground, our thought life. Instead of thinking clearly and seeing things for what they are, what happens is we set up these condemnation camps. We have the self-condemnation camp and the kid condemnation camp. And let me tell you, the self-condemnation camp is this camp right here. And it's like, it's all my fault. Gosh, if I just would have spanked her more when she was little, that would have taken care of it. Gosh, if I wouldn't have spanked him so much, that would have been the answer. Gosh, if I wouldn't have let her have a drink at graduation, she wouldn't have become an alcoholic. Gosh, if I wouldn't have let him date that girl, she wouldn't have got pregnant, in high school. Gosh, if I wouldn't have, I should have. And then I had a psychology professor, and this is one of the best phrases I've ever heard. I never coulda, shoulda. Never coulda, shoulda. See, what happens in this camp right here is you get so distracted by thinking about all the things you could have or should have done that you stop looking at the life going on around you. You may stop looking at the spouse who needs you. You may stop looking at your other kids who need you, or your friends. You start neglecting other things because you become so self-absorbed, blaming yourself. You get caught in the blame. The other camp, this is the kid condemnation camp, and maybe you know people who have been in this one before. They totally screwed up. I never do like that. No kid of mine would ever do that. That's not my kid. My kid would never do that. They basically condemn the kid, pretty much setting up an opportunity just to close the door and to not let that kid come home. It's all the kid. Neither camp is right, but can I tell you one thing? Satan is the one who sets up these camps. And if you find yourself in either of these camps today, I tell you, get out of the camp. Because just like Adam and Eve, think about it. Satan's blending into his environment. He's a sneaky little snake, just talking with Eve, tempting her to do something. Do you know what I think? I think Satan had everything to do with the fact that your kid made the choice that they did. Or your spouse, or a significant other. Satan has everything to do with the fact that they did it. He tempts. He's sneaky. My kids, when they try to picture like Satan, it's like, Satan will not come to you in this situation in red long johns with a horn and a pitchfork. It just don't happen that way. He disguises himself. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. He's not going to come over here and say, you know what, you really should have spanked your daughter more. You really should. He whispers. And it comes in as just a little subtle whisper. You really shouldn't have done that. You really shouldn't have done that. And he whispers over here in the kid condemnation camp because you know what Satan wants? Well, he had so much to do with your kid making the choice to go. What he would love to do here is to do the same thing to you. He is a homewrecker. He is a relational breaker. He is a family destroyer. And he will lie, and he will deceive you. Because while your kid or your spouse or whoever is out there living outside of God's parameters, he would love nothing more than to do everything he could to ruin a chance for the return.